Exclusive CNN reporting tonight on the investigation into leaks about security shortcomings of the new Air Force One. Last week, you'll remember, the president flew the old plane instead of the new one when he left the NATO summit. The White House claims it was so that U.S. service members could tour the new one. The New York Times said it was because the Qatari gifted plane lacked key defense systems, and the president was incensed by that reporting. Now we've learned some government officials have been asked to turn over their phones at the White House as part of a leak probe. CNN's Evan Perez joins us now with more. Evan, what more have you learned about this White House probe?
Yeah, this was an extraordinary scene at the White House last Friday where Kash Patel, the FBI director, and Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, essentially helped orchestrate what was hours-long numbers of people from the White House, people who may have known about the president's trip, were brought in. Their devices were taken from them in some cases, and they were being questioned by FBI agents because of this leak hunt. The FBI, of course, is trying to figure out who in the government could have possibly leaked this information to the media. And the president, as you pointed out, John, is very much obsessed with this. And that, again, took place at the White House. We have a statement from the White House about this unusual scene. They said leaks that jeopardize the safety of the president, his staff, and a traveling press pool are dangerous and a threat to national security. The White House takes these leaks seriously and will do everything legally to ensure the individual or individuals are caught and it does not happen again. That's, of course, from the White House this evening.
And Evan, we know the president was furious about this reporting, the disclosures. Is it easy enough to just connect the dots here? That's why the chief of staff and the FBI director are involved in this?
Right. No, it's not going to be very easy. And keep in mind, I mean, that's the reason why they issued those subpoenas to the New York Times reporters last week, because they were the president is very much focused on trying to figure out who could have leaked this information. It's a very unusual set of circumstances, again, because, you know, obviously the president is always mad at the press, but in this case, he took it very personally, the fact that he had to fly back on the old aircraft and not the new one that he was so proud of, John.
And the reporting by you and your colleagues on this has the FBI director not only involved, but going to the White House and setting up shop for a while. How unusual is this?
Oh my God, that is not done, right? First of all, the FBI director and the chief of staff of the White House would never be involved personally in an investigation, in part because if you do bring a prosecution, now they could possibly be witnesses in this investigation. So that's the first problem with this. You have competent career FBI agents who were doing this investigation. They were the ones who were, you know, would normally be doing the interviews and would normally be looking at the devices, looking at computers or anything like that to try to trace back who could have talked to reporters. So the fact that these two individuals were involved is highly, highly out of the ordinary. John?
And in the reporting, at least one person refused to turn this over, is that correct?
At least one person declined to turn it over, and we know that some agencies told their employees that they should call lawyers if they were asked to do so. So we will see where this leak hunt finally does turn up, John.
There is no blanket across the board privilege for communications between reporters and their sources. And we know that because that direct question was raised a long time ago, 1972, to the U.S. Supreme Court, which ruled back then 5-4. There is no privilege for those communications the way there would be, for example, between an attorney and a client, or in some instances, a doctor and a patient. That said, it is not open season for DOJ and the FBI to subpoena reporters. There are cases, and there's DOJ's own internal guidance that says that kind of subpoena should be an extraordinary measure, that's a quote, used as a, quote, last resort, only if necessary for an urgent national security measure. And so I would expect this case with the New York Times to go to court, and I think they're going to litigate whether those criteria have been met.
The person who brought this whole thing to everyone's attention was Donald Trump. He was the first person at 8:42 a.m. on July 8th to send out a Truth Social post that says, "For old time's sake, I will be taking the old Air Force One from Turkey to Mildenhall, and he says the new Air Force One is going to go ahead." So he touched off this whole thing.
Right. Listen, I am really big on press freedoms. I do not like this crackdown where they have people going to reporters' houses in particular. I'm really nervous about this idea of Kash Patel sitting in the White House collecting phones for the administration because they're embarrassed. But this is not the first administration to do this. And it really worries me from a press freedom perspective as to what presidents will do in order to crack down on leakers. It's a real problem. It is a press problem that is bigger than any one administration. Trump is doing a bad thing now, but he's not the first. And we need to deal with the fact that the president cannot pressure reporters to give up sources. Full stop.
Yeah. The Times has asked, by the way, just now tonight, to quash these subpoenas of its journalists. But yeah, you're right, Charles. I mean, he's not the first president. He's probably not even the president who's used the subpoena power the most. Yeah. But I think the part of this that is so just interesting and very Trumpian is that he's embarrassed about the plane.
Yes,
he rushed a $400 million retrofit of a plane, and it wasn't ready for prime time, and now he's embarrassed. That's what this is about.
He's not only embarrassed, I mean, the plane was never going to be secure enough and to allow the time that it would need to retrofit it completely. I mean, the comm system that goes into Air Force One, the evasion systems that it has on board, that's just not going to be possible to install. And so the president, while he was really proud about touting this plane, he totally was embarrassed. And that's why he's cracking down and trying to figure out the leaks of where this all came from. But the reality is that there's so many people that are involved in what it takes to have Air Force One take off, from the advanced staff on the ground to people in the White House to the military. It can come from anywhere. And it's something probably as small as the plane's just not secure. And then it becomes, a story that is widely reported. And so I share Charles's concern about crackdown of press freedoms. We certainly dealt with leaks in the Biden White House and the Biden administration that were concerning and sometimes dealt with issues of national security, but you can't clamp down on freedom of the press either.
I think Charles is right about most presidents just not wanting to deal with leaks to the press. And I remember the Obama administration was incredibly aggressive. And I understand why. And for me, I don't know where I land on this, because in one vein, I don't want national security issues being printed or written about. But on your show, when we first talked about this plane, that was my biggest reason to be against it, because I was worried about the president's safety on a plane from the Qataris. I don't know what the hell is going on with Boeing. It's taken them way too long to finish these planes.
Isn't this actually to Boeing's defense? They have to actually make the plane secure. They can't cut corners.
No, they can't. But Abby, they're behind, though. They're behind the deadline. But that's my point,
is that it is not an easy thing to do. It takes time.
No, it does. It does.
Yeah, there are going to be delays, but Trump wants a quick fix. And yeah, I mean, I think that actually there is a strong argument to be made that it is in the public interest to know.
Well,
but I just wonder, Charles, you're a journalist. What's the line for what you don't?
There are presidents on this plane, right? If there are going to be presidents on this plane, and they want to make it seem like the plane is safe, but the plane is not safe. There's a public interest.
Abby, what's the line?
Two things. One, it strikes me that this White House is taking far more consequences to find out who leaked information about this plane, which I feel like, to your point, Donald Trump blabbed all about, than they did with Signalgate, for example, which to me seems like a far more serious concern of national security. And also, it's Trump who told us he wasn't going to be on the new Air Force One. It's Trump who told us the Israelis had told him that the Iranians were targeting him. It's Trump who can't shut up about being the #1 target of the Iranians. So maybe somebody should go look at his phone and his mouth.